You got to love it here in the city. Our heart beats stronger.
The NHL playoff picture is still up in the air, but here in Winnipeg, fans are confident the arena will echo with the sound of white noise again.
Let's go! Go, Jets, go!
Winnipeg is back in the big leagues and over the moon.
Welcome back to the landing strip as the Winnipeg Jets roll over the Chicago Blackhawks on this Saturday afternoon. And sometimes when the schedule makers put out a tomato can for you, you just got to absolutely crush it. And it's safe to say the Winnipeg Jets were multiple tiers better than the Chicago Blackhawks on this one. Mikey, how you doing this Saturday evening? Nice and early today. I gotta say, I gotta admit, the afternoon game caught me off guard. I woke up early this afternoon thinking it was gonna be a 6 o'clocker, head to the gym, get the notification at the gym that the Jets game's starting in 15 minutes. So I'm a little fuzzy on the first half of this one. Gonna make that announcement early here. How are you doing today, Mikey?
Doing pretty good. I know the players probably hate them, but man, I love an afternoon game. There's just something about it. They're always kind of weird and fun, a little bit sloppy. There's usually some offense. Guys aren't really awake for the first half of the game. So I kind of love them. And, the Jets gave me a scare in this one to start off, which we'll get into a bit. But They rounded into form there a little bit, and pretty much every line out there was decent outside of the first line maybe. But it was a fun one, and I'm excited to talk to everybody and take some calls, and we'll get into it.
I gotta say, I think you're pushing a little too hard on the first line thing on a night like this, where they get a couple goals and again out control their minutes, Mikey. I'm just gonna throw that one out there. Let's get into that first period though. What did you see? Because I see in the chat that. Choices TK says mediocre first period, solid second and third. Go for the win against a bad Chicago team. Banks the points on some home cooking, and I was seeing a lot of social media buzz in that first period about it not being quite the start the Winnipeg Jets were looking for. What were you seeing early in that one?
Even before I get to that, I am gonna have to do this.
That's right. We do need the buzz going. Feels good. That one in honor of being the first NHL team to 20 wins, which is pretty crazy after the last 10-game segment when you really stop and think about it. Great call, Mikey, going to the old Sack Squirtle to get this show going.
The Jets started off a little sleepy. I wanted to make sure we didn't start off sleepy as well. So, got to hit Sack Squirtle right off the hop.
I'm with you there, and I see Caleb's with you on the afternoon games where Caleb on YouTube says afternoon home games where you leave the arena half buzzed and it's not even dinner. Those are great Saturday vibes.
Yeah, you can't beat that on a Saturday. You can't beat that. With the Jets, though, in the first period, it was kind of what you would expect on an early start game. They were sloppy. Guys weren't awake yet, especially in the neutral zone. It was real sloppy in the neutral zone. Which is kind of why I was a little nervous to start the game. I was starting to think, oh God, are we going to see another game where they're just going to not have it today? You know, nobody's going to be coming for it. They're going to be, you know, skating backwards all game. But luckily, I think that was just, you know, rubbing the sleep out of their eyes, waiting for the caffeine to finally hit. So, yeah, it was a sloppy first period, but outside of that, you know, they bounced back, which was good.
Yeah, and in that first period, obviously the Jets leave it 2-1. I could comment on the goals. Of course, I went back and watched some replays. Alex Vlasic scores on the PP on a goal where Tyler Bertuzzi absolutely has Connor Hellebuyck screened. There's no way he could see anything with how tight Bertuzzi was there.
And no one touching him.
Yeah, nobody.
Just
DeMello
left to his own
Stanley both
devices.
just left.
Yeah.
Gabe Vilardi gets another one. That's what, his second in 3 games?
Yep.
With a tip from, hey, talk a lot of negative about Logan Stanley. He had a great stretch here from what I see. Gets the puck through from the point, which we know is like the one positive aspect. It's the one aspect I've talked up about Stanley's game being misunderstood. Gets a wrist shot through. Gabe Vilardi with the great tip. Good to see. And then, if I'm not mistaken, he draws a power play right after. So hey, you gotta call it some of the good. I know the puck movement and the getting it out of the zone in the periods I saw, especially in the second half, not so good. There was some problems there, but hey, positively impacts the Winnipeg Jets there.
Yeah,
good to see. You
give credit where credit is due. You know, I've always said that Logan Stanley from the blue line in is, you know, definitely is. That's where his skill set lies. So yeah, it was good. And is there anybody better in front of the net right now than Gabe Vilardi? Those hands, man, that is absolutely incredible what he can do out there.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Yeah, you're right. As far as net front goes, Gabe Vilardi's up there with the best of them. But 13 seconds left in this first period, and the Jets wanted to shoot themselves in the foot a bit as the top line gets exposed on the back check. This is one of those plays, and I like how Marat summarized this on Twitter, actually. So I'm going to take a page out of his book, that it was a little bit of a show and tell why sometimes it's not just about getting back in numbers, and it's about picking up the guy itself. And on that goal, Kyle Connor loses his guy. Alex Martinez beats Connor Hellebuyck, and the Jets go into this one 2-1 into the second period.
Yeah, that was that was kind of one of the ones where I was watching and going, oh God, the top line again tonight. Defensively, you know, there was just those couple moments that stood out where I just went, oh, cringe. You know, it still didn't look as great. And I'm gonna double down on my maybe controversial comment from last game. I don't think Mark Scheifele is fully back.
I think that's fair tonight.
I think the Scheifele we saw in the last game maybe had an extra dose of whatever painkillers they're you know, handing out in the locker room from the doctors, because he seemed to be, you know, managing the pain better last game. But this one showed me where, again, I don't think he is near enough back to where we need him to center on that first line. So I'm hoping they find a way to get him some time at home to rest or see a different doctor or something soon, because I think we need Mark Scheifele. And again, it wasn't that they played poorly tonight. Chicago is dog shit, and the Jets did to them what they should do to a team that bad. I'm just looking long term. I'm hoping we get a healthy Scheifele soon.
Yeah, and then right around the time I finally get home from the gym, and still, I'm going to answer your comment here. I'm going to defend myself just a tad shortly here once we get through this game a little bit here. But shortly after I get home and get to turn this game on, Nino Niedereitter scores a beauty for his 10th of the year. And it was one of those goals that is nice to see how all 5 guys are involved in this one. That play starts with Neil Pionk transferring the puck up to Mason Appleton through the neutral zone. Apples kind of creates with some speed. Puck ends up to Fleury, who gets it towards the net. Eventually, Appleton finds Nino for a gorgeous read off the wall. Goes to that backhand top shelf. Adam Lowry was disrupting the net front the entire time. One of those goals you like to see all 5 guys contribute on, and a beautiful, beautiful finish from Nino Niedereitter.
Yeah, he is so much fun to watch, man. If they can find a way to, again, we've talked a lot about, you know, shuffling of the lines and things, But if I just want to see more Nino Niedereitter, that's kind of where I'm at. Whether that's getting him on power play 1, whether that's, finding just some other ways, because he is hot right now. He's playing some great hockey, and he's such a blast to watch.
And then the goal that really puts this one out of reach, obviously, from what I saw in that third period, I never thought Chicago was going to put another goal away in this one. They just had nothing going for them except for the one shift, and it was a weird play. Mason Appleton decides, well, the Jets have Chicago hemmed in. He's going to throw a cross-ice saucer pass all the way to the other board to Ville Heinola, which never makes it there.
Yep.
And Chicago pushes up the ice. Hellebuyck has to make kind of an awkward sliding save. That was the only time Chicago felt like they had any opportunity in this third for me. The Winnipeg Jets really controlled the game. And one of the texts I got about the first half of the game, and I think it was true for the first bit I started watching, and then we saw some opportunities as that third went on, this was the type of game that the Jets really controlled the possession of the game. They really controlled the zone time. They were in complete control of most of this game, from my understanding, definitely from the half of the game I got to watch. And it was just one of those things where, despite having all that zone time, there was still frustration with the lack of what they were getting from the middle of the ice, which we know has been a regular thing for this team at 5-on-5. Yep. I liked a lot more of the looks in the third period, but it still was one of those things where I was kind of hearing about a lot of zone time, which you want to see the Winnipeg Jets control the game, but still struggling to get to that slot at times. What's your thoughts there on that aspect against the Chicago Blackhawks tonight?
Yeah, both things can be true. The Jets definitely dominated the play in the game. They carried the game, the vast majority of it, outside of, like I said, the start. But at the same time, they left so much meat on the bone. There were so many opportunities that should have maybe, gone their way. They did not do well, down the middle of the ice. There was still a lot of sloppy play in the neutral zone. There are certain defensemen that we'll get to who can't make a pass to get the puck out of their own zone to save their life. Like, there was a lot that you could still watch and go, it's not operating at the level that we saw them start out the year at, and, at the level we know as how good they can be. Now, again, that's still missing Nick Ehlers. That's still missing Dylan Sandberg. Those are two huge cogs in the overall machine of this team, which, we've talked about being they're successful by committee, right? It's not one guy that leads the way entirely outside of maybe Connor Hellebuyck some nights. When it comes to the actual skaters, they need that whole group kind of pulling. And when you're missing two big pieces, you'll see nights like this where there's a lot of meat on the bone. I'm just glad they came away with the 2 points. And that they're able to kind of, keep that momentum going. First team to reach 20 wins. We've got the back-to-back tomorrow, so there's no real time for them to rest and get healed up. But hopefully they can carry this into the game tomorrow, and maybe Eric Comrie will be our savior.
Hey, maybe so. And I see the chat's buzzing, and some good jokes and some good questions going in. So we'll get there shortly as we wrap up through what was going on in this game a little bit. The reason I wanted to talk about the idea of the Winnipeg Jets still leaving a bit of meat on the bone when it comes to the net front slot and getting more productive looks, because the Mark Scheifele goal that comes next and puts this game pretty much out of reach. I know it was only 3-2, but like I kind of said, based on what I saw in the back half of this game, it would have stunned me if the Chicago Blackhawks were able to generate a quality look against Connor Hellebuyck and the Winnipeg Jets in this one. But Mark Scheifele's goal is exactly the type of situation and play we want to see from the Winnipeg Jets more often. Obviously, wins the faceoff, big faceoff win down in the O zone, wins it to Kyle Connor, who creates some time and space for himself by pressing towards the slot and then circling back out. And he's clearly waiting for Mark Scheifele to either get open or get to the net. And then from there, Kyle Connor shoots it low for a rebound. Mark Scheifele's driving the back door. No one has him. Bing, bang, boom. Those are the type of goals and the type of offense we want to see more from the Winnipeg Jets, and I wanted to highlight that spot because that was to a T what I want to see some of our better players, our impact players doing, and Mark Scheifele nailed exactly what I want to see more of from the Winnipeg Jets in this one.
Yeah, you
And
can tell
then-
that's definitely
Go for it.
something they've practiced, they've worked on. You know what I mean? And Gabe Velarde creating havoc out front there, I think, creates enough of a distraction, too, for Mark Scheifele to get in there untouched. So, yeah, you're 100% right. That's exactly what we want to see from that group.
Yeah, and then Mason Appleton puts this one out of reach when he turns on the Jets for the empty netter. And the Winnipeg Jets, first team to 20 wins. Let's open up those phone lines. Let's start diving into the chat. I got before I get over to YouTube, where there's been some fun conversation and some things I want to jump into, some hellos we got to make. I got to defend myself with Sul here. Woke up early to go to the gym, and it's 2:45 p.m. Quite the early bird, Nick? So a few things to kind of defend myself here. Got up a little late, like closer to noon, and it was the work Christmas party last night. Came home to a dog that was wound up, so I got to stay up with him, get him all tired out. Might have gotten into some of the candy late at night and might have enjoyed some video games. So, it was one of those mornings. It was a slow start, but still had to get the gym in, So I'm going to defend, the work party might have put me behind this weekend. As for some of the hockey talk, let's get into some of the YouTube stuff. Phyllis says, "Hey, Nick and Mikey, number 2 to smash the like." So hey, if you're listening, make sure to smash that like button. Help the fellas out with the old algorithms. Slick McGuire tuning in says, "Evening, folks. Nice to watch that." Okay, I don't know how to pronounce that symbol, but it's
Yeah, I think
I
that's
like
just
the
the
symbol
okay.
used right now.
Yeah.
Good effort from the guys in Lambeau is looking pretty good out there. Just a shame about the missed opportunity. Let's talk about Lambeau. This is
Yeah.
obviously when we're looking at some of these young players, and this is a bigger discussion I want to have a little bit too, because obviously there's been some frustration with some of the results. You've heard it here on this show as well. But my take has continued to be, this is the spot because you've banked up some points. That getting some guys runway is more than fine. It's not going to always be pretty, and we've seen the up and downs of what that could kind of mean, right? But Lambeau coming into tonight, I was starting to wonder, hey, we haven't seen much impact. Skating looked great the first period of the first game.
Yep.
Thought the last 5 periods were a bit quieter. Then I come in, and I'm getting nothing but great texts about Lambeau's start to tonight's game. And then I'm tuning into the game. What I'm seeing that stood out for me, that was a positive. And again, I want to couch a lot of today on the fact that the Chicago Blackhawks are a really bad team. So I don't want to get too excited about the idea yet. But I think this was a great step for Brad Lambert. The stuff that really stood out for me is how much he was attacking with speed through the neutral zone, backing defenders off, which created some space for Cole Perfetti, who Lambeau had found a couple times higher in the offensive zone. And it was good to see him using some of his skill set to generate and create at this level. What did you see from Lambeau? Of course, I didn't catch the first half of this one, so.
Yeah, the skating was there today. It was exactly what we've been kind of waiting to see from Brad Lambert, that we saw flashes of in the first game. We've seen with the Moose, and that was really good to see. Before the game, Scott Arniel came out and talked about how he's been doing the little things away from the puck, right? And that he's, liked what he's seen, that, the points and things will come. And that's kind of what I was saying during the last show, that, it's going to be a bit of a bumpy ride with a young player, but he's doing the things correct to be successful. He's putting himself in those right positions. And once it starts to come, then it'll, it always comes in waves that we've seen. So yeah, it's the skating was the big thing. He doesn't look lost. He doesn't look like he doesn't belong. I'm still gonna, start the petition of when Ehlers comes back, you keep Lambert in the lineup, and let him play on that line with Perfetti. But it's probably not going to happen. But that's the fight I'll be looking for.
Yeah, no, it's good to see a positive step. I just want to see this continue to progress against better competition.
Yeah.
That might have been the worst team we've seen the Jets play so far this year, as far as it's right up there with the Pittsburgh game to me, as far as watching the other team and going, shit, like what do I take from this, seeing how bad it is. Now, you can only play your schedule, and the Jets will roll through a really bad team. So a good sign. We know this team's been looking for some good vibes after the 3-7. They've now put 2 games in a row. I'm just not ready to make any bold proclamations on Lambeau yet. I'm happy to see he took a step today. Again, this is a team that could use a guy that could skate through transition and bring this team to the O-zone more, and it could really help create some depth in that lineup like we talked about on that technical difficulties episode. Yep. And what that could mean as far as deeping out a lineup. Great to see a step forward for Lambeau. Let's see if he can build that off on the back-to-back tomorrow.
I think that was his biggest attribute today as well, right, was the transition. He was miles and miles better than we've seen in the last couple of games with that, and that's the skill set that we, one, are lacking from the group overall, and 2, that he brings, right? So the fit is there. If it starts coming consistently, I really want to see that chemistry with him and Perfetti keep growing, because they look like they're having fun together.
And it looks like Caleb over on YouTube agrees with you, whose comment I was looking to get to next. So great segue there, Mikey. Caleb had said Lambeau and Perfetti looking like there might be some chemistry building there. And for a guy that I felt hasn't been playing with guys that offer him the ability to excel, I'm excited about the idea of Cole Perfetti having a line mate he can mix with. And I do see some looks that him and Lambeau see off each other that are exciting, especially these are 2 of the Jets' most important under 23-year-old players. And if they could actually build something with each other, that's great news for both the Winnipeg Jets in the present and the future. But let's see it keep going against some better comp. Again, I'm here for the window. I'm here to see this through. This is part of the fact you've built up banked points. You're still first in the Central after today. Let's keep seeing this through. Let's keep seeing it through. It's not killing you. Yeah. We'll see where it goes. But I think today was a positive step there.
It's the development side of draft and develop, right? We have to do the develop part now. And that means playing NHL games for guys. And it's time, I think, to see what we've got here. You know, the Ehlers injury sucks because of what they lose from the lineup. But hopefully the one positive we'll be able to get out of it is that, you know, maybe Brad Lambert puts together a little run here and finds a way to stick.
For sure. Another chirp in the audience today, and I love to see it. Hey, you put yourself out there, you got to wear it sometimes. Scott Westman bugging me with the laundry day at Lynam's. Nick wore a different hoodie. There's not even a hood on this one today. Hey, no hoodie here today. It is laundry day, though, so good call on that, that Scott. Caleb makes the joke. Well, 55 will have some time off during 4 countries turning to recover. Too soon for that joke, and that was something I know you were talking about, Mikey, as wanting to make sure Mark Scheifele is at his healthiest. I'll say this. It might be too soon in the sense that Scott O'Neill revealed that he's still on the reserve list, and with the tournament still 3 months out, an injury might find Mark Scheifele on Team Canada. So that was an interesting tidbit to come out of the coach post announcement.
Yeah, with so much time between the rosters getting announced and when the tournament starts, there's always going to be guys who get hurt between now and then. It'll just determine how many of them and how far up Mark Scheifele is on that list. But for sure, he's definitely one of the next names up for forwards.
Yeah, so we'll see where that goes. Definitely an interesting scenario. Clearly, he's not the guy on the 32 Thoughts podcast. Did you see the Friedman thing this week? I'm curious if this ever comes out. Someone had gotten a call that was cut from Team Canada, and their reaction made sure that Team Canada would never even take them as a reserve-eligible player. And I'm dying to know who that was.
Interesting. No, I think I missed that this week. Did they have any reporting on like what was said to Team Canada to scare them off so bad, or just the conversation made them go, we're never calling this guy again?
Something about the player's reaction of being left off left the entire like Hockey Canada stratosphere saying, yeah, we're good. So
wow.
Well, maybe we'll find out more about that as things go along here.
How badly can you scare somebody without using swear words? Sorry, bad joke.
Fat Tony 202 points out here. Frank Saravelli said Scheifele was one of the first up, so that makes sense. So yeah. I imagine Scheifele was either 14 or 15 as far as this camp coming down. They take 13, an injury or 2.
And he's right in there.
Could get Mark Scheifele right in there. And the one, it's interesting because I get both frames of mind when it comes to this tournament. I've seen some people that are would prefer how Washington ended up with no players represented because it means they're not going to be at risk to getting injured, and I get that fear.
Yep.
But I also do think it's a good opportunity for guys like Morrissey, Hellbuck, Connor, potentially Scheifele to go and actually spend some time around some of the very best players in the world
Yep.
and get to like pick their brains a little bit and potentially sell them on Winnipeg. So that's how I tend to see this, and I think it's a good opportunity for those guys. Obviously, it creates a bit more confidence in how well they're perceived around the league, but I think it also creates some it's a building opportunity as well. So I think it'd be pretty cool for Scheifele to get there, and we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, you don't generally get worse by playing with better competition. To be around guys that are the elite of the elite, getting to go up against them, getting to play with, them, even just doing these type of camps, if you end up, the 13th forward kind of thing, is all positives, I think. And there's always risk, right? You could get hurt. That is always the big risk. But, they could get hurt walking to the game. They could get hurt, slipping in the bathtub. That's just a risk that comes in life, I think, with professional athletes. So, it's one of those things where you can take it positively either way. For guys like Mark Scheifele, for guys like Kyle Connor, who maybe have that really intensive chip on their shoulder when it comes to competition, it could also be a motivating factor if they do get left off, right? If they don't get to go, they could come out and just be, super pissed and come out in a tear after the the break. So, yeah, there's silver linings you can find always.
And Al Camino adds, or spend time with the very best coaches, and adds, because I have doubts about this one. And again, just being around that environment, I think, is a positive, especially for. Yep. It's not like the Winnipeg Jets core guys have really had those opportunities quite often. Like Wheeler and Buff were there in Team USA in years past. There hasn't been a lot of national stuff since. Yeah. So I do think it's a positive opportunity. Now I see some comments over on YouTube. Al Camino makes the joke that they were also missing Colin Miller in this one when you were talking about Sandberg and Ehlers being gone. True. Andrea Kohach asks, why are they sitting Miller? So it's a few things. I believe, actually, Dean Chanowith commented on this week, so we do have a bit of insight into what the organization is thinking. And Dean had kind of said how with some of the D getting injured in camp, they didn't feel like they got a real long look at what they had, and both Stanley and Heinola fit under that conversation. So the way Dean was kind of talking was as if they're using this stretch here as an extended training camp to get a look at both Stanley and Heinola, which, I mean, I actually don't mind that thought in a vacuum. The other side of it is, of course, as we've talked about, Stanley is nearly 27 years old. We know what he is at this point, and it does feel like a wasted opportunity. Where that comes into play is Arneal's made it very clear he needs and feels more comfortable with Stanley in the lineup because of size compared to the rest of the D-core. And the other aspect that's likely playing into that is Colin Miller does not play on the penalty kill. Logan Stanley does. So they're trying to find some middle ground here with Heinola playing next to Stanley. Makes it tough for Heinola on his offhand, but that's kind of what's coming together as far as the Miller stuff. Don't know if I'm buying it fully, but that's just kind of what we're hearing from the team on that topic, so I figured I'd share that out there. Now, I don't think it's the best use of what they have available. We had kind of I had talked up Stanley positively impacts this game today with getting that shot through, drawing a penalty. Though on that first goal, you can make the case he should have been moving or at least getting Bertuzzi out of that sight line with Hellbuck, the way the play had shifted from the left side to the right side. So DeMello shifts a bit to move that way. Stanley becomes the net front PK type guy. Also, there was the one shift in the third that really stood out where he has the puck 3 times, can't pass it up. I just don't think the pros outweigh the cons. I don't really want to beat up on that topic today. Yeah. I actually really thought today, watching that pair, that this was a step forward for Heinola. And again, this is a bad Chicago team. So I don't want to get too over the top with both Heinola and Lambert in this game just yet. But I agree with Choices TK over on Twitch when he says Lambert and Heinola both look better, but there was also a lot more open ice tonight against a bad Chicago team Fleury really showed that he can move in this game as well. And that's what's going to be hard for me to really take too much out of this game is we know the Winnipeg Jets struggle against teams that do pressure them, that are able to put them on their heels a little bit, that are able to grind them down a little bit. And just Chicago doesn't offer any of that kind of resistance. So in a game like this, it's great to see guys like Heinola, Lambert can really take advantage of that open ice. It is also one of those things, I'm hoping it's a building block for those players to now take another step as this week goes on to build off it. Because I saw a confident Heinola who is making decisions with confidence. Whenever he had the puck on his stick, he was looking to jump. He was looking to create. A few times when he would move it in the O zone to a winger and then jump immediately into the slot to try and be that extra layer of offense added. I liked what I saw in Ville Heinola's game. This was a bad Blackhawks team trying to find that middle ground. But again, I hope Ville Heinola could take this game and take a step with it. I mean, anytime we talked about how uncomfortable it is to have Heinola and Stanley on a third pair and what it means for the other pair's minutes. Today was a good one. I mean, when those both guys come ahead on the advanced numbers and you're seeing the positive elements of Heinola's game really shine through in this one, I think those are good steps and good signs for the Winnipeg Jets coming out of this game past just the result on the scoreboard.
Yeah, absolutely. This is it's a development game that you want to see from Ville Heinola. You know, we'll say it. We've said it 8 times already. We'll say it another 20. This was a dog shit Chicago team, but at the same time, you know, you had Ville Heinola who, with the puck on his stick, especially moving in an offensive way, saw the game well, was able to transition the puck well. At the same time, again, not to harp on it, but you saw Logan Stanley look slow and look lost with the puck on his stick outside of the first goal. So yeah, Chicago was dog shit, but you at least still had progress from one of those two young defensemen, which is what you want to see. Just touching on the Stanley, Colin Miller stuff, just real quick. Really, I think Scott Arniel has identified it to us as what the real thing is, which you said it while you were going there. It's the fact that he likes the size. He is just more comfortable with that size in the lineup, even though it is not used well by that player, even though the role that he is being asked to fill is not one that he is comfortable doing or good at. But Scott Arniel is just more comfortable with it. All the other stuff, I think, is secondary at this point. And we kind of just have to accept that that's the way that Scott Arniel likes the lineup. And we'll just have to wait and see if at any point the results kind of overtake that or not, or if we just have to wait until they add at the deadline and somebody kind of forces them out of that spot. But yeah, with Heinola and Lambert, it was a great game for two young players to get their feet wet again. You know, like they had that rough couple stretch of games there. This was a good place for them to find a bit of the game, find some confidence, and keep taking that going forward, because we need that. We're going to need these young players to be contributors to the NHL roster sooner rather than later.
Yes, and here's some more talk on the youngsters on defense. I know Jet Centric was at the Moose game yesterday, and Elias Salmonson went down with what looked like a shoulder or collarbone injury.
Yep.
So there's a layer of depth now within the organization that has also taken a bit of a blow. We'll see what kind of comes of that injury. I know I was talking to him yesterday. He mentions in the chat here, no Salmonson coming to help soon.
Yep.
So a tough break there for what I think is the Jets' best prospect. Hoping for good news there. On the Moose stuff, holy hell, did you see Chaz Lucius's goal last night?
Yeah.
Holy shit, that shot is incredible.
Yeah. He's got the skill. We've always said the talent is there. He just, sometimes your best ability is availability, and he doesn't have that very often, right? So, the talent is there. The skill is there. I think I saw somebody on Blue Sky. I think it was our friend Harrison, HL Living Loco, who stops into the chat sometime. I think it was him that mentioned that, there was a point a few years ago where people were kind of writing off Gabe Vilardi in a very similar kind of way to Lucius, so you never know. Maybe there's a spark somewhere still in there where he can make a jump, but if not, it's still nice to see for a longtime Moose, longtime Moose player.
Yeah, no, it was just great to see him playing hockey again, and great to see him making an impact. It's funny. I was just someone in one of my group chats had asked me and Jor about Chaz Lucius the other day and like where he was and whatnot. And we had clipped or screenshotted his career stat line. Quite intriguing, man. Every time he's able to play, he lights leagues up. It's just the availability is never there. It's a really, really interesting prospect if he could ever stay healthy. And that Velarde comparison is really interesting as a guy that did struggle for so long coming out of junior hockey with injuries. You just hope to see him healthy, but it was impressive in that one game showing what he showed. And but Choices does nail it here with can't make the club in the tub, and that will continue to be the big question around him. I like this point from Slick McGuire over on YouTube as well. Dog shit team, taking your quote, Mikey, that is beating good teams this year, got to beat the team in front of you, and the young guys did pretty well considering. And I think that's my biggest takeaway coming out of this game overall, not beating too much stuff up, not getting over the top with too much excitement. This was a game the Winnipeg Jets did exactly what you should do, and that's maul one of the worst teams in the league. And you saw some steps forward from some guys that could potentially become key players for the Winnipeg Jets, either in this lineup or via trade. It's good to see. It's good. Got to feel good about that coming out on a Saturday evening.
Absolutely. Yep. That's exactly what you want from a kind of sleepy start from a game. They rebounded. They did what they needed to do. They got their points, and hopefully they can get a little bit of rest between now and the game tomorrow.
Yes. Rahul says, in my opinion, I'd keep Miller in, especially with Sandberg out. At least there's a vet on the third pair and maybe can spell some shifts from Morrissey or Pionk. And that's something we had talked about last game with a comment that DB204 had talked about with last game, Pionk seeing 27 plus minutes, Morrissey seeing 30. I do agree with Rahul there that just having that trusted vet is something I prefer. We'll see how it goes. I on one hand, and again, I don't necessarily agree with this decision because I don't see the idea of giving Stanley runway as a positive development. On one hand, I think you could look at it as a positive on the coaching staff having the risk tolerance to go and use an uncertain pair that might have some upside later.
Yep.
You could look at it that way too, and I think you'd be fair to do so. So I agree with Rahul. We'll see where this all goes.
Yep.
There's also the aspect that Miller is a proven commodity himself. And there's one thing you got to wonder too is because we know the size aspect is going to keep Logan Stanley in the lineup, it basically comes down to, do you want to see Ville Heinola get a run, or do you want to see Colin Miller knowing he's a stable 6'7"? I'd rather see both. It doesn't seem like the org's going to go that way. So at this point, hey, giving Ville Heinola a run while you got the bank points, while you're still in first, he's taken a step forward today. I think that's okay. I think that's okay. As frustrating as it is at times, I think that's okay.
You know, that's a great way to kind of frame it, because from a development standpoint, the coaching staff should get a lot of credit for having the risk tolerance to play two young guys on that third pairing to see what they got. Now, do we, collectively as a little community here for the most part kind of think that what Stanley is already is a known commodity as well? Yeah, but the coaching staff seems to either disagree with that or just say we like what that commodity is regardless because of the size. Either way, I've kind of accepted the fact that that is who is going to be playing on the left side on that third pair while the team is constructed like this. So yeah, would I rather see Ville Heinola or Colin Miller? I'd rather see Heinola, even if it is on his offside, because one, they need that skill set, and two, I believe in him as a player that can still thrive if he can carve out a role.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Sup, T-Will, good to see you in the chat. Phyllis says, totally agree. It's games like this where the kids can shine. And, hey, those are positive developments, too. If you've been someone that wants to see the kids get an opportunity, it's not always going to be pretty, but you're seeing some opportunities right now. So, hey, I'm quite content with where the team is in that regard. Fat Tony 202 makes a couple good points here on Twitch. The Jets are 2-0 against the top team in the NHL, which is currently the Minnesota Wild. And we know we take care of our little brother when it comes to the Wild. So that's a positive point. And he also mentions on this talk that me and you are going back and forth here on Miller versus Heinola. one thing he would consider is consider giving DeMello a rest to get Miller games and see what him and JMO have as a bit of a breather for Dylan DeMello, which was interesting. Scott O'Neill seems to have this thing where he'll make a change and then 2 periods later he's back to where he was. Because in the third period we saw DeMello back with Morrissey and Pionk back with Fleury. What'd you take of that?
Yeah, it was weird to see that shift in the third. But then I think he went back to Morrissey Pionk again in the third period a little bit later. So it was a weird that he was kind of switching that pairing back and forth. I don't know what they were looking for, if they were just trying to get more ice for somebody or give somebody maybe a breather in the third and kind of doubled up some of the pairings. I'm not sure, but it's a weird thing that, he does where he'll start off the game with a change and then quickly jump back to, quote unquote, old faithful. I personally wouldn't mind seeing DeMello catch his breath for a game or two, let Miller play a little bit, see if you want to play him with Morrissey, see if you want to play him with Fleury, whatever the pairings you want to work out. But yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that at all right now, just to give DeMello that chance to catch his breath.
Matt Hyman says Chaz is playing right now too. That's good to see. Apparently he is. He put on a show last night for those in attendance. Phyllis says Chaz played awesome yesterday. I was at the Moose game last night. He stood out. And I was getting texts all night about Chaz while I was at my Christmas party. So clearly he was noticeable to whoever was in attendance. Elias McCracken and Phyllis are hyping up Velarde. Velarde is such a strong player for us, says Phyllis. And Elias says, I'm deaf on the Velarde bandwagon. And how could you not be? He represents a lot of the things the Jets were kind of missing offensively with that net front skill, and he's able to add that element, which is important for this team. I think they need some more guys that are able to create offense from that slot, and I appreciate the Velarde mold, that's for sure. Good to see Max the Silent jumping in. With boycotting games till Stanley is out of the lineup. Good to see you back in the chat, Max. I understand the boycott. Fat Tony 202, their guess on why to make the DeMello Pionk swap. Shit, what the hell? Just no offense from Fleury. DeMello would be his guess, and that does track. I thought, and I saw, I believe it was Choices. I thought this was another good outing for Hayden Fleury, who's really made himself a regular, though I do think playing a little too high up in the lineup.
Yeah, he's filling into a spot that, normally you wouldn't want him to have to fill into. But he has not been the problem. You know what I mean? It's not, we haven't gone through games and been like, Fleury cost us this game, on this spot here. And what is he doing there? He's doing, the best that he can in that spot. And it's been pretty good, at least defensively. The one thing that, you maybe would like to see is, a little bit more offense if you can get it, but you're limited right now with the options that you have. So, I don't think he's been the problem on that pairing. And, if they can find a more offensive partner for him once everything is kind of settled, Ville Heinola.
Yeah. Elias McCracken goes, I like Chaz, but if he goes on a good run, I would consider him a trade chip for a 2C or a 2D. Injury history worries me. Man, if you could use Chaz Lucius to acquire help for this team, you just do it. I don't think that guy has any value at this stage. So if he goes on a stretch and you're able to parlay him to help now, absolutely. Could not agree more on that. Choices over on Twitch says Columbus, Anaheim, San Jose, and Montreal in 4 of the next 6. A lot of room to continue seeing what the kids can do. And this is the stretch to keep seeing them if they could keep taking steps and work through an NHL schedule. We're getting live reports over on YouTube thanks to Stuart Ferguson where Chaz just scored again. Is 2025 going to be the year of the Chaz? Fat Tony also updates us over on Twitch on Chaz scoring. That is awesome to see. Now, something interesting about those 4 teams Choices mentioned is 3 out of the 4 have something in common with the Winnipeg Jets this week, and I wanted to get to there tonight. There was 5 to 6 teams poking around former Winnipeg Jacob Trouba.
Oh, yeah.
Who ends up getting traded to the Anaheim Ducks. And we knew or the reports day of were Columbus, Anaheim, believe San Jose was in there with Detroit, and two of the teams were kind of like not mentioned. Late last night on, I think it was Vancouver, Sportsnet Vancouver radio, Nick Kypreos had the other two teams as Vancouver and Winnipeg. What is Mikey's thoughts hearing that the Winnipeg Jets were one of the 6 teams potentially really interested on acquiring Jacob Trouba back?
I'm pretty happy about that because I loved that idea myself. We talked about it here on the show. I was very pro bringing Jacob Trouba back to fill that spot on D for the Jets. Stylistically, it's a fit. There's ways that you could have made the contract work. And you know that he is exactly what they need in that spot. Is he our ideal pie in the sky, want or an ad? No. But would he have filled exactly kind of what they need in that role and it's a guy that isn't going to upset the juju in the room, which we know is very important in Winnipeg. You got to make sure that the vibes are high, right? So I was pretty happy about that because I felt a little vindicated.
So I have a lot of different thoughts on how that whole thing played out. Max, the silence making me laugh. Just more evidence the Jets are shit at evaluating D-men. And interesting, I think it tells us a few things with the interest in Jacob Trouba. First thing is I don't think it was ever actually realistic with either of those two teams. Winnipeg would have had to move money back or get retention to make any deal work. Yeah. The New York Rangers somehow are able to trade Jacob Trouba without paying any cost, without retaining any money, and getting out of the full $8 million the next year and a half. I think someone's got to be investigating Pat Verbeek for what for crimes against his own organization. That was just treasonous to not take some assets out of a desperate Rangers team for that contract. But I do think it tells us a few things. We do know, we're talking about the size aspect. I think it's safe to say the Winnipeg Jets are going to be trying to acquire a defenseman that can bring some physicality, that brings that element. And the fact that the Winnipeg Jets were in there, that's one thing I take out of it. You kind of nail it with the vibes. We know the Winnipeg Jets. Vibes rule all. Analytics, numbers, and stuff don't matter. Nope. Vibes don't. Max the Silence says, by the way, Trouba could have been a terrific defenseman if Maurice didn't lead him astray. See JMO. And there's a conversation with Paul Maurice and developing those guys to be had for sure. There was also the organization familiarity where Jacob Trouba was someone that was really tight with a guy like Mark Scheifele, played with Josh Morrissey in the past. It also tells us that Chevy might be willing to make an early move, which I find interesting. That he's already out there poking for D-men. I don't think it'll be a surprise when we acquire one. Another takeaway, and stick with me here. Is it maybe safe to look at the fact that they were targeting Jacob Trouba, who is a guy I think would have some utility, but again, in an ideal world, you want to aim a bit higher. Mm-hmm. Is it maybe something we could read into the fact that potentially they could have traded for Trouba and that they're really going to go big on a center over a defenseman? Or is it just an opportunity cost thing right now with what's going on with the decor and the fact Trouba was there for cheap? Thoughts on those theories?
Yeah, I lean more towards the opportunity that Trouba was there at a time where the Rangers seemed desperate, where you could have maybe capitalized on getting Trouba out of them in a more favorable position, coupled with the broken foot of Dylan Samberg. I think those two things are what led to that being more than just your standard tire kicking, to the point where it was reported that they were one of the 6 teams actually involved in some type of discussion. Now, the fact that they got that deal done in a way that screams, collusion, what are you doing? They get bailed out. So yeah, I don't want the Jets to do that, right? That's let me clarify. I did not want the Jets to make the deal that the Ducks made. But just in terms of the fit, the style, the relationships, those things all fall right where I think Chevy would want them to. So I think that's why they were maybe a little bit more serious than just a tire kick.
And Rahul, you're 100% right here. Again, this was going to be a bet, if anything. And I think the best part of that bet, actually, if the Winnipeg Jets were to have landed Jacob Trouba, and with the way that trade materialized, it was never realistic. It was a reach out, get some interest. But the fact that the Ducks took on that full contract and gave up value, the Ducks would have been the team, and it gave the Rangers the waiver threat. It seems like the Ducks would have just claimed him for free, which is insane when you look at managing the cap and managing assets. I think a rebuilding team made a lot more sense than a competitive team when it comes to Jacob Trouba and what he could provide now, because a rebuilding team should have got draft capital for taking on that full deal. And then like the idea in California, probably if you're the Ducks, would be you're now willing to eat half and trade him out as a defenseman at $4 million instead of $8 million, and you would have double dipped on your assets as you're trying to rebuild this thing. Pat Verbeek, I think, really, it makes no sense that he bailed out the Rangers.
Yeah.
San Jose bailed the Rangers out of Goudreau this summer.
Yep.
And now the Rangers get bailed out on Trouba. That side of it makes no sense to me.
Like at all whatsoever. I don't understand what like does Chris Drury have like naked photos of Pat Verbeek? Like what is going on? Like it makes no sense to just bail them out like that. I'm a little upset at it, to be honest.
And I guess I didn't even read out Rahul's comment, so I'll read it back out for the audio listeners. Rahul had mentioned Marcy Trouba was dynamite in 17-18, 7 years ago, which a long time ago. I'm just trying to figure out the reason. Like that was the optimistic side of trying to sell Jacob Trouba. Again, it was never realistic. Trouba hasn't been close to that 3-year stretch from 2016 to 2019, and we do know his game has fallen apart, and that's why, as a captain, they put him in such a bind. And I'll say this. I can't believe we're spending this much time on it, but the amount of think pieces that were out on Twitter about the Rangers being this evil arch organization for using leverage to get Jacob Trouba out of town. Come on,
God.
I'm almost as pro player as they come. Like everyone knows about my takes on Rucker McGrady stuff. I'm pro player, but at the end of the day, Jacob Trouba has used all the leverage he has at every step and turn of his career. Did it on behalf of his family, which you got to respect the guy for doing so.
Yeah.
But guess what? He's got a no-trade clause, not a no-move clause. The Rangers did everything in their power to use the leverage of the CBA, which is a PA and owners joint agreement. It was just insane seeing some of the think pieces. Good on the Rangers for doing what a team needs to do to try and get better.
Yeah,
that's how I see it.
Yeah, they operated completely within the lines of the CBA. They didn't do anything untoward or skeezy. This was regular player negotiations that go on all the time. To have any issue with the way that was approached, in my opinion as well, is a little silly. It's a little ridiculous. That's what those clauses are for. So, it wasn't no move. These are the choices that they had, and they were willing to use them to, like you said, try to improve the team. You would want that from your own team, I would assume. So,
yeah. And Mark over on Twitch says, weren't Verbeek and Drury former teammates? And were they actually? They might have played together in New York, eh? I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up. That's a good point, Mark. Buddies helping buddies, the NHL way. The NHL way. Who cares about the business operation you're running when you could just help your buddy out? Where else do I want to go from here? Elias McCracken. These are the type of D-men that we should be talking about rather than trying to sell ourselves on a Jacob Trouba revival. Again, the best part, in my opinion, about any potential Trouba ad when we talked about this years past was not signing Pionk this summer was essentially the big thing there. But Elias McCracken names a couple D that, if you listen to me, I'm big on. I want to pry one of the Flames D-men in Uyghur or
Rasmussen.
No, it's Rasmus Anderson.
Oh, sorry,
Rasmus
Rasmus Anderson.
So,
yeah.
I was reading that and trying to put it together. Those are the type I'd like to see. We'll see where that goes.
Yeah,
See where that
yeah,
goes.
we're really hoping for Calgary to flame out soon, so that maybe some of those guys can start becoming available. I'm still sold on a one-stop shop if we can get it in a couple of places that we've talked about. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
And Choices says, our team's going to be dumping salary with the hopes of making moves with the cap going up a good amount. And I think this the league's in a really interesting spot right now. We know that there's going to be big-time cap raises, though I also am a little bit worried about another potential lockout coming. We'll see where that goes. We know the cap's going to go up a lot. We also, as I keep talking about, are seeing a lot of reporting around other teams where ownership and the team is getting a little frustrated with the lack of progress. I can see there being a market develop around players that are on term deals with teams that are looking to shake things up. And it's the avenue in the trade market I am most interested in as a Winnipeg Jets follower, because the Jets do have both cap flexibility now and into the future, but they have the assets to go take advantage of a situation like that. We know Kevin Cheveldayoff's a patient GM looking for options, and it might not even be like the big name that you see that attracts the trade conversation talk. Like, it might not be the Brady Tkachuk, whose name's been thrown out in Ottawa around New York, and that whole scenario was insane, the reaction. But we know Chevy's the type of guy that'll see an opportunity like that and call and start trying to pick a guy that isn't as talked about out of there, like a Nino Niedereitter example, right? Yep. No one was talking about Nino. He had an extra year. One of my favorite little ads from Chevy. I think it's that type of situation, and we know Cheveldayoff operates in those markets. So I just want to see where that develops, and I do think there's going to be opportunity there. Elias McCracken also says, hit the like button, folks. Support Winnipeg Sports Talk. Hey, we want to keep growing. We want to keep bringing you guys content. We're running a busy week here. We're going to do 5 shows in 5 days. I'm excited. So definitely like that button and support us. We appreciate that. T. Conapoli just says one of my old favorite names, Yanni Gord. It's a guy I really like at center, though I think they'll look for a bit of a different mold. We'll see where that goes. And there's still been some talk about Seattle maybe extending him. I'm on the Gord train. I like him. Max of Silent, are any PO2 blasters in the chat? Should probably ask this on Twitch. Don't even know what that means. Sorry. Elias says, I just hope Chevy chases a top 2D that is not a rental, someone that we could build upon. And I agree. Yep. That's the one spot I would like to see some term for sure. There's a bit more uncertainty into the future at that position than at center. So I'd like to see a term defenseman.
And we know the Jets and Chevy specifically they don't like a pure rental, right? For the most part, they want to find a guy that if they don't have term, that maybe is signable, right? They make approaches to a lot of the guys that they bring in on these runs, right? They wanted to bring back was it Monahan they wanted to bring back, right? Whether or not we want that is a different story, but I'm just saying that that is their MO, is to bring guys in that they can grow with maybe a little bit. So that's why it tends to be names that maybe aren't as prominent in the pure rental market, the ones on the top 5 TSN trade bait or whatever. But you find somebody that fits the mold of what they're looking for. So I'm really excited to see what they do on D. I think that is going to be the spot that they are looking to long-term fix more than short-term. I feel like up front they're more willing to find just a pure rental. D is going to be real interesting. I think that is going to be the spot there. Whether that happens or not, who knows? But that's the spot I feel like they're going to look hard at.
And this is one of the center names as rentals I do like because of the aspect of trying to score goals from the harder areas. And Brock Nelson does that. Gilbert Marion throws him out, aim higher with Brock Nelson. We've talked about it. It's a guy I like. Fat Tony has one of my favorite D over on Twitch. And it's a guy I do think's actually feasible. He's been popped up in trade rumors in years past. Ottawa has a couple younger guys like a Sanderson that they might prioritize. And he's off to a great start, and that's Thomas Chabot, potentially. That's one of those teams that's a little frustrated with the lack of progression in their organization and talk about being able to go get an impact defender that's signed for a few more years. It's an interesting one. Tony, thanks for throwing that in. Brock Nelson getting a lot of love in the chat as well after his name came up.
Yep.
One question from Rahul here I didn't want to skip, and I've been waiting for the right spot to go back. He asked, Nick, has your opinion on Perfetti's upside changed since 2019, 2020? In one way, yes. And when he was first drafted, I was really excited about the idea that he could be a solidified 2C, and there's just naturally more value in NHL centers than wingers unless you get one of those rare wingers that drives play and impacts the game at a level. So I do think his upside takes a hit moving to the wing rather than a center when you're looking at the organizational value of the player. I still think he's a legitimate top 6 winger in his NHL career, but the moving from center to wing I think really does hurt his upside and his impact within an organization. So I'd say it's fallen for that reason.
Yep, absolutely. Centers are just valued more, especially with the defensive side of the game and everything like that. So the hope when they drafted him was that he was going to be that, long-term second line center. The move to the wing does impact it there, but I think he can still be a really, really good NHL, top 6 winger, especially if you find him the right line mates. I think that's going to be a really good player for the Jets for a long time. He's so smart. He sees the game well. I think they still got a really good player there.
Yeah, we'll see where that one goes. It is tough that he isn't a center, and it's just one of those things. Wingers aren't nearly as valuable, but again, I'm still on the top 6 Cole Perfetti train. So it's one of those things. Go
ahead. No, go ahead. I'll let you finish your Perfetti thought.
I was honestly I had marbles in my mouth trying to find where I was going to take that. So
I was just going to ask, are there any forwards on Ottawa that, because you know me, I want to one-stop shop this if I can, right? I want to do the Brock Nelson, Ryan Pulock combo. I want to do so is there a forward on Ottawa that you like enough that we could, find something to work around Thomas Chabot and plus?
I mean, you could take the Shane Pinto shot if you wanted, but other than that, a lot of those guys have been paid already, and I think it gets a lot more complicated.
Yeah. All right, fair enough.
And I see a couple of our regulars and guys I enjoy talking puck with totally agreeing on different versions of the show over on YouTube. Max of Silence says he's the anti-Rozovic, in my opinion. Should totally still get a shot at C. And Fat Tony also says over on Twitch, his foot speed on the wing hurts him. So it is interesting because Rozovic was another guy that maybe they gave too long of a leash at center when it was becoming obvious that he couldn't handle the position.
Yep. And
then Perfetti's been a guy that got a few games at the beginning of last year, and they don't want to shake him up. So it is interesting. He is still young. We'll see where that goes, but it does seem like the org's not going to go back to the center aspect, and I do find that interesting because it does hurt the value of the player within the org as far as big picture.
Yeah,
it's one of those things when you're a competitive team trying to take another step. I think they've talked themselves into getting more certainty at that spot and being content with what he's done on the wing.
Yeah,
and it's easy to get caught there, right? Especially with where this team has been.
And we've seen like Nemestikov play center there. We've seen Velarde play center there. We've seen Lambert play center there. If they haven't tried him out as a center this season yet in any of these opportunities, I don't see it probably happening at all. So, yeah, I think at the moment with this coaching staff, this management group, I think, he's going to be playing wing.
Choices throws out Giroux as a package with Chabot, and there's a name I completely forgot about, to be honest.
Yeah, I did as well.
Kyle asks, what is Twitch? So Twitch
rental.
is like a form of YouTube where people are able to stream all day. There's different types of content going on, and we've set up a Twitch channel like this YouTube channel to throw our show over there as well and trying to build this audience. So, hey, we're going to get into the 3 stars in a second here. It's been over an hour. We've really enjoyed getting to talk with you. I want to say Max is Silent, thanks for the kind words, who says doing a really good job. He wouldn't be able to talk this much in a week and have different conversations. Really appreciate that. But make sure you make sure you're subscribed. We're going live after every game. We're bringing you weekly updates, looking into the future, looking into the past a little bit. We're bringing the content this year. So make sure you like, subscribe, and let people know about us, right? We don't want to be the best kept secret. We want to keep this show growing, keep this community growing. Would appreciate that. But let's go over to the 3 stars in this one. Mikey, I think you have a little something for us before we get into that.
Let's go. There we are. Let's do our 3 stars.
Let's do our 3 stars. I'll let you get started with it. Who do you got today? Who are your 3 stars in this one?
So my 3rd star is going to go out to the combination of Brad Lambert and Ville Heinola. Just the kids had a good game, just kind of overall. You know, Lambert was super noticeable. Heinola did some nice things out there, and like we talked about, it's just good to see them go out and have just that positive game when they can, so they can get that confidence and start building that momentum. 2nd star, I lost my 2nd star. And 1st star is Gabe Vilardi. I've been really enjoying his stretch of games lately. I've said it a million times, but as Gabe Vilardi goes, generally the team goes. When he's going, the top line is generally going. That goal when he's out front in the net was just absolutely incredible. So I've got Gabe Vilardi as my number 1 star, and I'll let you go while I try to find who I had number 2. Oh, Nino Niedereitter. Sorry.
Go for it.
I found it.
Go
Nino
for it.
Niederreiter, 2nd star tonight for me. Give me fuel, give me fire, give me Nino Niederreiter. He's so much fun to watch.
So I'm going to use this as a bit of a taking some signs out of this one with the different groupings. Not his greatest game, but we spent a lot of time ragging on him. So I'm going to focus on the positive in this one. 3rd star, draws a penalty, gets an assist getting his shot through. Logan Stanley with an honorable mention to Ville Heinola, who I felt carried him up the ice for most of this one. We talked about the puck being a problem, but let's build on the positives. The Winnipeg Jets went into a building against a bad team. We saw some positives. Let's focus on that right now. Let's go 2nd, the Nino Niederreiter goal, just because it was so pretty. And 1st, I'm going to go Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor. Mark Scheifele because that goal represents what I want to see more of from the Winnipeg Jets. Kyle Connor puts up a multi-point effort. Obviously, they got the monkey off their back. We'll give them some love in this one. This was a building game, so we're going to take some of the building elements out of this one for the 3 stars aspect. Not necessarily who I think were the 3 stars in this game, but some of the stuff I'm excited to see leaving this one.
It's about vibes today, and I'm going to actually echo what Jet Centric said. 1st star goes to Laine. Welcome back, Patrick Laine, to the NHL.
Yeah, it's been nice to see him get off to a good start. And hey, the chat's been buzzing, so I'm going to go through some stuff here before we even take off here. Max of Silence says Nick only watches hot tub content on Twitch, and you're going to get me in trouble with this one. Doug Henderson says, I still like Sanheim, a great defenseman to name. Jet Centric says, let's get Stamkos, and I'm going to say that's not the guy to do. Running Man says, Phyllis, thanks for telling him about this site. And hey, thanks, Phyllis, for sharing this. We want to keep building this. Let's go. Let's go. I like to see that. But it's been a fun one. Really appreciate everyone that's been here. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday night. We'll see you tomorrow after the Winnipeg Jets play back-to-back against the Columbus Blue Jackets back here in Winnipeg. Looking forward to being there. Come say hi if you're up in the 300s, and we'll see you back post-game tomorrow.
Tell 2 friends to tell 2 friends, rate, review, and remember, have a good night, everybody.